everybody, today we're going to be talking about Samsung's latest top-of-the-line 4K set. It's the QLED 2020 Q90T. But before I start talking about the specifics of the television, I'm going to have a couple of guests come in and help me out.
Hi, my name's Graham and this is my sister Nora.
Hi, my name's Nora and I'm so glad to be with you to talk about this TV and see what it can do.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Before I talk about the actual details of this television, I want to talk a little bit about Samsung's naming scheme. So the Q90T, that's the top of the line set for the 4K models in the US. There actually is a Q95T, only in Europe though, and I'll talk a little bit about the differences there. They do make a Q60, 70, and 80T as well. And then their 8K sets are the Q800T, 900T, and 950T. So that will kind of help explain a little bit about the naming. If you see an R, that's 2019's model, and that's actually what is mounted right behind this television. This is the 2019 Q90R. And so once we unbox this and set it up, I'm going to actually set it up on the coffee table right here so we can get a comparison between the two sets. Main changes with the Q90T over the Q90R. The 2019 Q90R had the One Connect box, and that's a major difference between the Q90T. This year, the 2020 model does not have the One Connect box, so all the HDMI, USB ports, power, it's all on the actual television and not on a separate box. And so that's a pretty major difference and possibly one reason why I may not actually replace this television on the wall, just because it's going to be a bit of a hassle to run all the cables again to the new set. The other major difference is the 2020 Q90T does not accept the no-gap wall mount. And so we'll have to get a new mount if I was going to replace this. The other major difference, and something I was initially pretty bummed about when I read, was that the number of local dimming zones has changed considerably in this model. Samsung doesn't release the specifics on the number of zones, but based on some research that I did, the Q90T has about 96 local dimming zones versus the 2019 model has about 480, so major drop down. Oddly enough, the Q95T, the European model, has an increased number of zones, 120 from what I've read, so a slight difference there. And the Q95T actually also includes the One Connect box, so not real sure why Samsung decided to have that incremental bump in dimming zones for the 95 model, or why it decided to get rid of the One Connect box for the Q90T. So we've talked a little bit about the full array local dimming, the number of dimming zones in this set, and initially, like I said, it was a bit of a letdown for me to see the reduction in the number of zones. However, from what I've read, Samsung has really improved the algorithm for dimming and contrast control. They've developed a new power control system that can divert power from brighter areas and actually make the amount of blooming seem a little bit less pronounced. But you know what would be better than 96 zones and an improved algorithm for dimming control? 480 zones and an improved algorithm for dimming zones. Now, one actual benefit of the decrease in some of the features, so it would seem, for the 2020 model, is that the price is a little bit lower than the MSRP for the 2019 similar size version. Now, you probably really can't blame Samsung for I don't want to say crippling, but for not including all of its top of the line features in their top of the line 4K set, and reserving those for their 8K sets. They want to push the high-end market to buy those 8K televisions. If the only difference between the Q90T and the Q900T was resolution, very few informed buyers would go for the 8K set over the 4K set. And so that's kind of the reason that Samsung is likely doing this. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about some of the features of the Q90T. So some of the gaming features of the Q90T, it's got a very low input lag in game mode, about 10 milliseconds. It also is FreeSync compatible, meaning that it can match the refresh rate of your video game consoles in real time. So it definitely has some gaming features, as well as an auto low latency mode. So it'll automatically detect your video game console being plugged in or switching to that input and automatically enable the low input lag. All right, it's also got a new object tracking sound system. So there are actually 8 speakers around the periphery of the set. And so it sort of enables a surround sound or tracking of objects from one side to another based on the sound from the different speakers. Now, it's not going to be as good as having a sound bar or having actual surround sound set up in your room, but it's definitely going to be a little bit of an improvement over traditional stereo speakers on a television. So that's one new feature of the 2020 Q90T. Another change to this version of the television is that you have the option now of choosing another voice assistant besides Bixby. Some people may love Bixby. I personally am not a fan. Here, though, you have the option of choosing between Google's assistant and Amazon's assistant. So the only downside with going with an assistant other than Bixby is you lose some of the finer controls with the settings of the television. Those are baked into Bixby's voice control. But for me, that shouldn't be a big issue. I don't mind using the remote to control things like that. But if that's something that you would rather control with your voice, Bixby's may be where you want to go. One thing that hasn't changed in the Q90T is the HDR modes. Again, there's no support for Dolby Vision. Instead, Samsung has chosen to go with their own HDR Plus mode. And for those of you that aren't familiar, HDR Plus and Dolby Vision are 2 competing formats for scene-by-scene changes in HDR. So you're going to get better quality with HDR data that changes throughout the show versus a set level of HDR. So that's something that unfortunately with Samsung televisions you're going to have to go with Samsung's own proprietary format, HDR Plus. Alright, so I think it's time to go ahead and unbox this, get it set up, and then we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the 2019 Q90T and the 2019 Q90R and the 2020 Q90T. On the top of the box, we've got a few things. We've got the quick setup guide. We've got the package with the user manual, remote, batteries, and screws. And then we've also got part of the base, the stand. So that was my mistake. The screws are actually taped to the bottom of the plastic portion of the stand. This is the quick setup guide. It goes over the differences in how you're going to want to put together the stand based on the size of the television. And you definitely want to have 2 people when you are removing this television and setting it on a flat surface in order to install the base. It's very heavy. This is the package. It has all the warranty information, the user manual, the remote, the power cable, and batteries. As you can see, the remote is pretty simplistic. It's almost identical to the 2019 Q90R remote, with the main difference being instead of a Hulu button, there's actually a Samsung TV Plus button on the bottom right. and this is the main part of the base, the stand. It is very, very hefty. It's probably about 20-25 pounds.
So now we're going to take a look at the back of the television. You can see all the different ports that are available. You've got 2 USB ports, 4 HDMI ports, with only one being an HDMI 2.1. You've got your coax antenna in and Ethernet port. And one thing to note is that this television does have Wi-Fi version 5, the AC, and not the newest Wi-Fi 6. You can also see all these channels and grooves here on the back. This is the cable management system that the television has, just to keep all your cables hidden and run them down through the base. The other thing that you can see on the television is the back of it has this brushed or polished metal finish, which actually looks quite nice. So I've got both televisions set up now, and the one thing that I always do first is place these televisions into the retail mode off the home mode. You can do this through the settings. So this is what you'll see when you walk into a Best Buy or store like that, and you'll see these televisions on the wall. These are 4K HDR videos produced by Samsung that just highlight the best of what these televisions can give you. And what you see here are these very vivid images, very bright colors, everything that makes QLED sets really shine. Now, looking at the video of these televisions really doesn't do it justice. You have to really see these in person. But one of the things that really does stand out to me is just how deep dark the blacks can get, which is typically one of the benefits that you'll get from OLED televisions. But Samsung has really done a great job in really getting these deep dark blacks, and you see these just very colorful, vivid images here. So this is where you want to put the television into this mode if you want to impress your friends. You almost will never get something that looks this good unless you're going off of a 4K Blu-ray with the HDR on there. So you really can't tell one versus another what is the best picture here. They both have excellent detail and clarity, and the colors are just amazing. So both of these sets are really, really great, even though there are some differences in the specifications. Looking at this retail mode here, you can't really tell much of a difference. So here I'm trying to test out whether or not the decreased number of zones in the Q90T really has a major impact on the local dimming properties of the television. Here you can plainly see that on the Q90T set on the bottom, there is a lot more blooming around that bright object than there is up on top on the Q90R. So despite the improved algorithm, it does look like there is quality is a little bit worse as far as blooming around very bright objects. Now, just from the naked eye, peak brightness to me, it actually seemed a little bit brighter on the Q90T than the Q90R, which is opposite what the specifications show. And I have both televisions really tuned to equal settings. Now here, what this test is, we're looking at panel uniformity and the dirty screen effect. And it may be a little difficult to see from this video from my camera on these sets, but the Q90T, at least this set that I have, does suffer from some significant panel uniformity issues. You can kind of see it here, especially when it's a solid color. The panel just cannot display this image uniformly, and it almost that's what's called the dirty screen effect. It almost looks like the panel is dirty in some areas. not so pronounced on the Q90R up on top. And this is just another test to show the same thing. Um, dirty screen effect is most pronounced in fast-moving objects, so you can kind of really tell in sports, um, and so that's why these images are moving very quickly. So I'm going to end by playing this clip again and really just kind of summarize what my thoughts are on this set. Despite some panel uniformity issues and some definite decreased local dimming properties of the television, in day-to-day viewing of television and movies, I cannot personally tell much of a difference between the two sets. And so, the vast majority of people that buy this television, they're not going to be running um, these test videos to check for backlight bleed and panel uniformity issues. If you can watch a movie and none of those issues bother you, it's irrelevant. And watching 4K content on both sets simultaneously, I cannot personally tell a difference between the quality of the two sets. And so I think this is a great option for someone looking for a 4K set this year. If you have a Q90R and are thinking about possibly upgrading to the Q90T, I don't know if I would recommend that. But coming from an older model or a non-QLED set, it's certainly worthwhile to upgrade to this television. It is a great picture, um, and so certainly worth it. And I do want to thank the Insiders Network for supplying this television to me for review. And yeah, if you have any comments, leave them down below. Thanks.